So originally I was planning to try to figure out all of the redstone and piston bugs that were added to Minecraft in the 1.00 update before making a video about them so I could, show them all in one video. But unfortunately they're kind of confusing, and also people have been commenting that some of the stuff that was broken in the update, some of the stuff I've shown previously in 1.8 version of Minecraft no longer works. Because of this, I decided to just post videos of the stuff I find as I find it, including both bugs and fixes. So the first thing I want to show is just a continuation of what I showed 2 videos ago, which is what can happen when redstone connects diagonally past a piston. So in this configuration, first I'll show that both pistons can be powered. So even though the redstone kind of looks like it's just traveling past it, it can actually power both pistons. In the last video I showed, when you have an L shape like this piston will fail to be powered. But also I want to show that it's not just the shape of the piece of redstone up here, it's the connections around it that actually determine whether it's powered or not. So in this case, we have the redstone. If it's down there, then this piston will be powered. If it isn't, then it won't. And so, again, I'm going to classify this as a bug, even though Mojang has never released specifications for how they intend pistons to work, because there's no apparent reason why having a piece of redstone down here should change the behavior of this piece of redstone or this piston, because the graphics for both stay the same. Since it's only this piece of redstone and this piston that are involved in this piston extending directly, then if somehow this piece of redstone causes them to change behavior, I feel like there should be some way that's apparent. And there isn't any reason why it should be, so I think it's a bug. Let's see, just to show this more completely, you can also show if it's a T shape that neither piston will be powered. Same for a complete cross shape. Also a T shape going only through one of the pistons. So if you're at the base of the T, it still won't work. And the thing to really remember about this is that, I guess the general rule is that a redstone signal passing diagonally through a piston will not power that piston unless that redstone, the top piece of redstone of that diagonal, continues past the space next to the piston. So there's the bottom space, the top space, and then the space past it. Either continues straight past it above at the same height or below that top block. And also it must not have any side connections to it. Any other case in the diagonal connection will not power the piston. Alright, so next I'm going to go on to discuss the 1.5 tick clock that I've shown, or the compact 1.5 tick clock that I've shown previously. So this no longer works consistently in the 1.00 update, and I never really explained how this worked to begin with, so it's not going to be easy to explain what's wrong with it directly. So I'm going to first try to explain how it originally worked, and then we can go on to how to fix it. So in order to explain it, I'm going to show this device here, which is similar. So note there's this bottom piston here with the block that's attached. This is the block that the piston that modulates the output, and then this is just repeaters in the output line, repeaters carrying power through the block. We see the same thing over here. In this setup, the big difference is that this piston, which modulates the inner signal, so this piston cuts the power when this is off. It cuts the power that's coming from here into the inside, whereas over here that piston is not over the bottom piston. Here it is. And so we can see that this system doesn't work. I want to be clear that it's not necessarily true that it won't work. For example, this is the exact same construction, and over here it does work. So what's happening is when this is off and this piston is extended, the signal from here to here, the block which powers both pistons, gets cut. When that power is off, both pistons depower, and then the game places into a Java hash set pseudo-randomly the order in which these two pistons will be updated after being depowered. And a piston won't retract until after it's been depowered and then updated. Now, because they're placed in pseudo-randomly, and it doesn't have to happen that they happen simultaneously, what could happen is this power gets cut, this top piston and the bottom piston both lose power, and this top piston gets updated. And when a piston is updated to lose power, it instantaneously removes, if it's a sticky piston, it instantaneously removes the block that is attached to it from where it is, which means that the power will get reconnected. And then when this piston updates after that, if it updates, it might not, but I think it does. It's hard to tell without looking at the code, and I don't want to do that. When this piston updates, it will then again have power from this constant power source. And so it happens again. This retracts, and it's a 50% chance which piston will get powered first, or sorry, depowered first. And if it's this one, then we will get the behavior we want. If it's this one, then we won't, and it will just look like this, where the top piston every time loses power first, retracts, and then repowers the bottom piston before the bottom piston updates. The other possibility again is this, where the bottom piston every time depowers first. Now, back to this. The reason this works, sort of, or worked sort of at least, is because the piston arm of the top piston, when it was preparing to retract, that is, the piston at top updated and it realized it was depowered and that it prepared to retract, just the preparation of its retraction forces an update on the bottom piston. So in this configuration, the bottom piston will always get updated, even if it receives the update from the depowering after the top piston. It will still get a force update from the top piston to retract while it's being depowered before this block gets removed. And that's why even now, when the system doesn't work, the pistons are still synchronized. The new bug that was added with 1.00 is that sticky pistons can drop their blocks if they are depowered and then updated by a piston rather than by Redstone depowering it. This is very frustrating, because this, if you actually go through and count all the timings, this piston is dropping its block even though it's receiving the switch from the powered state to the depowered state after it's fully extended. So the piston extends and then this block gets placed at the same time that block gets placed. So it's not until after both blocks are placed that this piston, the bottom piston, gets depowered. And now in 1.00 it's possible for a piston that's already fully extended to lose power and drop a block as a result, which never happened before. Alright, so in order to try to fix this whole system, we need to have the bottom piston not be updated by the top piston directly, and we also need to eliminate the possibility, or try to at least eliminate the possibility, that the pistons are independently ordered by the hash set. So what I want ideally is for somehow the redstone signal from the cut power by the top piston to pass through the bottom piston on the way to then depowering and repowering the top piston. So the idea I came up for that can be shown over here. Basically what I did was I have this top piston, the bottom piston I had to move up in order to achieve this. What I did is the top piston cuts a signal, and that signal doesn't actually travel through the piston necessarily, but it does go diagonally past it. And that seems to work good enough for our purposes. There is a caveat to that, which I'll get to later. But basically, all I did was I kind of moved the whole thing up a block so that the bottom piston and the output, actually I'll show it more clearly over here, the output and the bottom piston are at the same level as the top piston now. And it's actually a more compact clock than before, but the big problem is that this can't be directly fit into the previously constructed things that I used it to power before, since the output is on the upper level. If you want to do that, then you have to kind of move it down to the lower level, and instead of being only 4 long and 5 wide, which is more compact than the 5x5 before, now it's 6 long by 5 wide. The unfortunate thing is that this row seems like it could be cleared up if I could just place a piston below this block, or sorry, below the piston arm here, but then that piston would interfere with this redstone. All that's in this row though is this piece of redstone being constantly powered so that it weakly powers this block when it's in this position, and this switch really could be moved in here if it needed to be. So I'll show that this works. And this is another construction of it. Now, one thing I want to point out is that this still has a Java hash set dependency, and maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't, but when I start this clock, note that this piston takes an extra cycle of this piston to start moving. So it's not till the second cycle of this piston that this piston becomes synchronized with it. Whereas in this case, this piston starts immediately. So I've built 6 of these just to show this off, to show that, you know, it's spatial dependence and also a hash set dependence. So if we say that this one has a problem and then it starts a cycle late, this yes does have a problem, this no does not. So yes, no, yes, yes, no, no. So yes, no, yes, yes, no, no. If I say that backwards, it's no, no, yes, yes, no, yes. Alright, so no, no, yes, yes, no, yes. And now all I'm going to do over here is change the Java hash set size by forcing it to fit all of these pieces of redstone into one hash set. And so what that'll do is it'll change how it randomizes things that are put into the hash set. So remember, no, no, yes, yes, no, yes now becomes yes, so this one changed. No, so that one didn't change. Yes, so that one didn't change. Yes, that one didn't change. Yes, that one changed. And yes, that one changed. So you can see that it's completely random. And it's, again, random based on the position of the device and the hash set size. Alright, so the caveat that I wanted to mention that I spoke of before is that this clock is designed so the signal gets cut, and it's a construction that goes clockwise from the cut to the last piston, or the internally controlling piston. Here I have the same construction that goes counterclockwise, And so this one works. See, both pistons are synchronized. This one works. Both pistons are synchronized. But this one doesn't. So whereas for those first 6, when it was a clockwise construction, for some reason, when the Java hash set issue came up, it caused the output controlling piston to only get delayed, or only to not respond on the first cycle. For the counterclockwise construction, for some reason, it causes the hash set ordering problem to manifest as the piston never responding. I have no idea why this is. Again, it's very confusing, these new bugs. So yeah, just build it that first way. I guess I could show right now how to build that simply. So start out with those 4 blocks. This is going to be the redstone, and then you're going to have the cycle over there. So the cycle will go like this. The output will be here, and that redstone will be there. Put our 2 repeaters there. This is going to be the output modulating piston, and the input, or I guess the internally modulating piston. Those are going to be the cutting blocks. That redstone torch will power the extended position, and that'll power the retracted position. Then we just need our control. Actually, I guess I could put the control back down here. And then this is the internally powering part. And so this will always work. And again, to modify this from the 4-long version into the 6-long version, so you could just plug it into the previous constructions that I showed in my other videos. You can actually just make this into a piece of redstone, have a repeater down there, then use a repeater here and here, so now both sides are delayed by 2 ticks, and then combine into the output. And again, for the 0.5 tick clocks that I showed, you'll want to remove this repeater and then replace it in other places. Alright, so let's see. Another thing I wanted to show is before in the 1.8 update, when a piston was powered by a 0.5 tick on, 0.5 tick off signal, like cycling signal, it was unbreakable. It turns out that now in this 1.00 update, a 1 tick on, half tick off signal will also make a piston unbreakable. You can see that every once in a while the graphic will start breaking, but then it gets reset for some reason. I think it might just be some sort of graphical error, because it doesn't look like any progress at all is actually being made toward breaking. What else? Down here, I'll show that a 1 tick on, 1 tick off clock does not make a piston unbreakable. And another thing I wanted to show is that the old style of 1.5 tick clock that I originally showed will work consistently as long as you have the Java hash set size set large enough. So this is the original bank of 1.5 tick clocks that I built, and you'll note that all of them work, except some of them will drop the block attached to the bottom piston on that piston's first extension. But every extension after that, it'll definitely work, if it didn't work on the first time. So this clock can still be used consistently as long as every single time you load Minecraft you're willing to somehow set the hash set to be large. So the 0.5 tick clock will still make a piston unbreakable. And the 0.5 tick off, 0.5 tick on clock will still allow a piston to be broken. So yeah, this is strange that the 1.5 tick clock, which is on for 1 tick, off for half a tick, now makes the piston unbreakable. I don't know why that is. When it's clearly not the 1 tick on, since the 1 tick clock I showed over there doesn't cause that behavior, and the half tick off part in the half tick on, half tick off clock, it's not the updates either, because that clock is faster than this one as far as updates are concerned. And yet the 1 tick on, 0.5 tick off clock causes a piston to now be unbreakable. So I guess just be aware that the the half tick clock is now even more useless than it was before. But I don't know, I guess that's just how the bugs are playing out. Alright, well, that's all I can think to show in this video. Thank you for your time.